Thanks everybody, thank you for coming. Thanks to the Booksmith for hosting. Thanks to Amy for that introduction. I'm glad that everybody reads those emails. I thought they were private between you. So change that. Let's see. So tonight, also thank you to the contributors. This is very confusing because there's like so much going on right now, which I'll tell you all about at this moment. So I wrote a book. It's actually 2 books in one, so divide around the center that happens. I'm going to read a little bit from the first book, and then after that, 7 people are going to present responses to their reading of the book. So there's going to be some music, there's going to be some fiction, there's going to be a rant about fate at some point. There will be a 6th grade book report, written and read by my wife, who instructed me to read the following piece. This is from the first book, which is entitled In One Story, The Two Sisters. In one story, the 2 sisters were a child who would not grow old. The parents stood over the mat where the child slept, watched the child, whispered a kind of concern, but were really more charmed by the small creature than anything else. The child was soft and underdeveloped in all the best places. Everything about the child was smooth and tiny and wriggling. Friends came over for dinner and said, "She's so delicate," by which they meant small for her age, tiny really. The parents took her to a specialist. "What do we do?" the parents asked. "She's 2, he said, "until she's 3, until she's 13, I suppose." The parents took the child to a second specialist, a developmental specialist. "She's a perfectly cogent 2.5-year-old, said the second specialist. "But we had her 3.5 years ago," said the mother. The second specialist said, "She is a perfectly cogent 2.5-year-old. The parents abandoned the project of seeing specialists and went about raising the child who would not grow old to the best of their ability. They often took the child to see a large tree in a park near their house. The tree had thick branches that reached over and all the way to the ground, and the child was able to climb on them and pull at them while the parents watched from a nearby bench. They developed a routine, learned to anticipate the child's moods, wants, needs. There were advantages to having a perpetual 2-year-old. The parents read the same bedtime stories over and over. The child learned, but she did not learn. Her vocabulary grew, but her worldview was capricious and unsettled. She spoke all the time and repeated herself often. She was potty trained, but still had accidents. She used a fork and knife, but managed only very small bites. The parents were even able to get to sleep early, ever so often. On these nights, they would say things like, "We've got a good thing going." Their 6-year-old, 2-year-old silent in the next room. One night, they ate dinner at a Mexican restaurant. There was a bowl of chips in the center of the table, and the child worked a single chip, piece by piece with her hands, her gums, her lips, her small teeth. The parents sat across from one another and talked about different things. The child repeated some of the things in between mouthfuls of chip. "I need new boots," she said. Her parents acknowledged her when she spoke, with a reply or a gesture or a question, and they went on talking. "Sit down in your chair," the father said. "I am," said the child. But they did not recognize the voice. She was nearly eye level with them now. She reached over, plucked a chip from the basket, and submerged it in the small dish of salsa. She ate the chip whole. Her parents watched in silence. Her clothes were tight to her body, swollen at the seams. There was hair on her arms, her legs, crumbs gathered in her beard. She watched the both of them, bleary-eyed. The child cursed at them in what might have been Russian. She took a handful of chips. She ordered a shot of tequila, then another upon its delivery. The parents divided up their burritos. "I need new boots," the child said in a heavy accent. "You'll need a new shirt too, sweetie." The mother gestured at the ribbons of cotton at the child's shoulders on the floor near the chair. The child ordered a third shot and asked the waiter where the buckle bunnies were. Later that night, the mother tucked the child into bed. They had carried her into the house. Her body hung heavy on each step, and she'd barely made it out of the car before throwing up somewhere in the darkness of their unlit lawn. The mother wiped the child's mouth with her sleeve. She tucked the edges of the blanket around the hulking mass. The father joined her in the doorway, and they watched the body heave and begin to snore. "There has never been an easy part to this," said the father. "There was at least one easy part," said the mother. In the morning, the child didn't say much. She asked for eggs, but ate only a bite before pushing the plate away and hanging her head. She asked for Tylenol, for water. "Your mother and I think you're ready to start school," said her father. "Okay, yeah, I know," said the child. A local public school ran from kindergarten through middle school and was associated with an adjacent high school. "Give it a few weeks," said the father, "and we'll see where you fit in." The child said nothing. On the first day of the semester, they introduced the child as their daughter. She wore her dad's shirt, his sweatpants, an old sweater. The principal of the high school called them that afternoon and said the parents had to pick the child up. She was no longer welcome. "Why?" asked the father. "Has she performed badly?" "No," said the principal. "She's light years ahead of most of the students, actually. She's a whiz at math, physics, nearly everything we threw at her. A real bright star. But she's a bully," the woman explained. "She tried to force another kid into letting her give him a tattoo with a needle and a ballpoint pen," she said. "The Mickey Mouse is very important," their daughter later said. She sat behind the kitchen table, her two parents across from her, arms at their hips, shaking their heads. "It is a sign of power, and of money, and of security, and of strength, and many other good things. I was not doing a wrong thing because the child wanted me to, you see." "Don't do this to us," said the father. "Do not do this." He looked all around the room before his gaze finally settled on the mother. She shook her head. Her eyes were wet. "What happened to our little baby forever? You were going to be our little baby, and what happened?" The daughter spat into a glass on the table, blew her nose onto the floor. She shrugged, and the lights in the room flickered. "I can fix the wiring," she said. "If it's a problem with the wiring, would that make you happy, if I fixed it?" So up next, thank you very much. Up next we have Andy Winnette, my brilliant wife, with a 6th grade book report on Fondly.